What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Wolfcrier here, and today we're going to be talking about the monk in Season 18 of Diablo 3. Now, as most of you know, the monk is my favorite all-time class for Diablo 3. It wasn't always that way. I actually started off on Wizard and then transitioned to a lot of playtime on Barb, but I almost have 2,000 hours played on monk since Season 5. Season 5 was when I first started playing the monk, and I pretty much never looked back. I love the monk because it is such a versatile class. Not only does it have a wide range of varying playstyles capable of doing GR 110 plus, but it also almost always has a spot in that meta as that support ZDPS monk, which I always have during every single season at my ready so that I can jump into those groups, level up some gems, gain some Paragon, and that sort of thing. It's just an overall well-rounded class. So today we're going to be ranking those monk builds in this upcoming Season 18. So let's get right to it. In the S tier, at a GR 130 plus, we have that Legacy of Dreams Wave of Light build. Now in Season 17, with that Legacy of Nightmares buff active, Wave of Light was by far the best build available to monks. And with the introduction of the new Legacy of Dreams gem, it should be even stronger in Season 18. The loss of a gem slot is easily overcome by the use of that Squirts necklace and the ability to reslot your rings since you no longer need to wear that Legacy of Nightmare set. LOD Wave of Light should keep its top spot on the leaderboards for Season 18, and this build is a solid S tier capable build. Like I said, GR 130 plus. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting because I put this build also in the S tier, but it is probably a little bit lower than that Wave of Light build. And that is the Raiment Generator build with that R6C3 build. And with changes to the Captain Crimson set, the already powerful Raiment Generator monk enjoys a nice little power boost. While I believe that the Legacy of Dreams Wave of Light monk is the stronger of the two builds, the damage bonus from Crimson's does allow this build to close the gap and is easily able to push well above previous seasons. If it weren't for the Legacy of Dreams gem in the game, this would be the top monk build in Season 18. Now, it will be interesting to see if anyone would challenge that Wave of Light build using the Raiment Generator build, but that remains to be seen. Now, there was something really satisfying about my return to this build on the PTR, and overall, I just really enjoyed this build. Monks in hand-to-hand combat just feel really good, and with the Crimson set, you no longer have to worry about maintaining that Cyclone Strike Lefebvre's buff for that damage mitigation. It's pretty much built right into Crimson's, allowing you to focus on maintaining your dash to keep your damage up and cycloning when you need to pull enemies in, and then you just punch. Overall, this is a very solid upper tier build for monks in the upcoming season. Now we're going to drop down to the A tier, which should be around 125 plus. And first up, we have that Legacy of Dreams Lashing Tail Kick build. At one point, LTK was the strongest build out there for monks, but they have fallen out of favor since the introduction of all those Wave of Light buffs over the last few seasons. But with the new Legacy of Dreams gem and the new amulets available for LOD builds, this should be a pretty high-end pusher. The Legacy of Dreams version is much stronger than its Inna's or Sun Wuko's counterparts, mainly because it can incorporate the new amulets into the build, but this build is a nice change of pace from that Wave of Light monk, as it's a in-your-face type of playstyle where you are up front kicking the crap out of all your enemies. Next up, we have the Inna's and the Sun Wuko's Wave of Light versions, and Sun Wuko's is stronger, but can be a little bit squishier, but that gets overridden with the new Captain Crimson's edition, allowing it to stay a very strong Greater Rift pusher. and Sun Wukong's can easily transition into a Death's Breath Nephilim Rift farming build simply by switching out Crimson for that Sages set. You pretty much just throw on an Ingiome and you're good to go when it comes to farming up those DBs, keys, and bounties. Inna's Wave of Light, on the other hand, has more life. You don't have to worry about those sweeping wind stacks, and you get to utilize that Rabid Strike, which buffs up your damage and puts it really close to that Sun Wukong's damage output. But without the Ring of Royal Grandeur buff, it just isn't as strong as it was back in Season 16. But it can still hold its own and should be capable to make it to GR 125. Inna's is the starter set for Season 18, so this build can easily carry you early on in the game, and should you decide to push with it, it should be a pretty strong Greater Rift pusher. Now let's talk about the B tier for the Monk, capable of pushing GR 120, and that is the Uliana's Exploding Palm build. Exploding Palm has been a middle-of-the-road Monk build for some time now, but it is still capable of pushing into that upper tier on the leaderboards. The addition of the Captain Crimson set offers up even more damage to this cooldown heavy build thanks to the damage increase based on your CDR. U6 EP has always been one of my favorite builds to play for the Monk, and while not as strong as some of the others available to us, it should still be a GR 120 build. The pretty explosions make this build worth playing at least once if you are a Monk player. There's just something about watching your cold rotation come around on your Convention of Elements, hitting that 7-sided strike, and seeing everything on the screen explode. It's a very, very fun build, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're going to drop down to the C tier, capable of GR 115 plus, and we are looking at that Sun Wukong's and Inna's LTK builds. These have been out of the meta for so long now, but the build is still capable of high-level GRs. The drawback with Lashing Tailkick is that it has an up-close and personal playstyle, and outside of that Legacy of Dreams version, it tends to not be able to survive as much as those ranged Wave of Light builds. The Crimson set does offer more defensive capabilities, but I would say if you're going for Lashing Tailkick this season, definitely work yourself up to running that LOD version. Then we've got the Inna's Generator build. This is still a very solid build, but without that Ring of Royal Grandeur buff from Season 16, it trails behind its Raiment Generator version. But with Inna's being the starter set for Monk in Season 18, it is something to think about if you are working up towards that R6C3 version of the build, and is still capable of hitting that GR 115 mark, and maybe as high as GR 120 with maxed out gear. Now in the past, I would have put this above the R6 version, but R6 is just a much better build nowadays. But let's move on and talk about 3 other builds that didn't really make the cut, mainly because they are either annoying to play or they just really need some help. First up, we've got the Inna's 6-piece, Uliana's 4-piece, 7-sided strike build. And this is a very strong build, but I find its playstyle super annoying. It's capable of GR 110 plus, but for the most part, you are strictly waiting for your cooldowns to come around. You're waiting on your rotation on your Convention of Elements. You are using that Fulminating Onslaught rune for 7-sided strike to deal all of your damage. And without that skill being available as much as the Uliana's version, it just doesn't seem to be worth it. You are waiting. You spend most of your time with this build waiting on your rotations. Deals a ton of damage when that rotation comes around, but it also suffers from a lack of damage mitigation because you do have to wear 5 pieces of Inna's, 3 pieces of Uliana's, and you have to cube that Ring of Royal Grandeur, and you are pretty much hurting in other defensive slots, so it's not as strong as some of the other builds out there. And it wasn't all that fun when I personally played it. I thought it was very slow, very methodical. You needed to have a high-end skill cap in order to run this build successfully in GRs, but someday maybe this will get a slight buff. Who knows? Next up, we are looking at the Inna's 6-piece Exploding Palm build, which is also capable of GR 110 plus. But again, this is another build that is waiting on cooldowns. At one point in time, this was one of the strongest builds available to the Monk, but they pretty much fixed some of the snapshotting that went on during that season, and it's just not as capable. I'd say if you want to see a lot of explosions on your screen, go with the Uliana's 6-piece Exploding Palm build. And then last but not least, let's talk about Tempest Rush, because somebody has to. This build needs so much love from Blizzard to be worth using. Now, it can reach GR 100, maybe a little bit higher with maxed out gear, but overall, I would not use it for pushing whatsoever. You can use it for farming. Maybe you can utilize a speed build, a speed variant using Tempest Rush, but there's so many other faster builds out there for speed farming and so many other stronger builds out there for greater rift pushing that unless you just really enjoy the playstyle of Tempest Rush, I strongly suggest against using it. Hopefully in the upcoming seasons, maybe with that upcoming set that's going to be announced for the Monk, maybe Tempest Rush will finally get some love. Because overall, it is a pretty decent skill to use. It's fun, but it lacks the damage output, and it just isn't useful as a Monk build currently. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I always greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to look out for Level with a Cause streams during the opening weekend of Season 18 in Diablo 3. We're going to be raising some money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and there's already a ton of streamers signed up, and hopefully we can reach our goal of $4,000. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so very much, and you all have a fantastic day. Peace.